right away, went downstairs, had dinner, was back up to my hotel room like 7:30, 8 o'clock, right? My wife was like, how can you focus so much on the laundry industry and you couldn't focus this well in school? I'm like, because believe it or not, the laundry industry is a lot more interesting than anything I learned in school,
Yep.
which is ooh. Welcome back, everybody, to Stop Interviewing, Start Selling. I'm your host, Philip Meyer. Today, we have somebody that honestly, I think I probably bother this guy a lot with questions that I send to him through text messages or I call him up because that's the nature of the beast of being a sales trainer for a Fortune 400 company. But we have none other than Alex Clark on the show. What's up, Alex? Thanks for jumping on.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. And I'll answer your questions anytime. Like you said, it's the nature of the beast.
Well, thanks, man. I know I've thrown quite a bit at you this past week. And one of the things I kind of wanted to talk to you about is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've basically been put in a position with the company that we both work for, which is UniFirst, to essentially spearhead this new movement of customer development reps. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, here at UniFirst, it's one of our newest positions that we have. And I was very fortunate enough to be there kind of when we started it out. And we only had around 20 CDRs. And we've now moved it up to, we got probably 140 now, 130, somewhere in that range.
Wow.
But my experience is being able to kind of create that training program and kind of put everything together for them.
Sure. So my first question to you, other than it's like obviously your history, which we'll get into, but my first question off the bat, because I'm super interested to find this out, is like, is that at all intimidating to be put in that position where you're like, you have to write this new curriculum for something that we've really never done before? Or is this just kind of like, nah, I got this piece of cake?
At first, the whole thing was intimidating. So the first thing is, we're starting off with a brand new position, which meant there was nothing. There was no training. We kind of been figuring out as we've gone along. The other thing is I was never a customer development representative. So I'm sitting there with this challenge of how do I train these people when I've never been in their position? So it was really, that's kind of the beauty of the challenge and the adversity that, myself and the whole group had to overcome. But definitely at first it's a little intimidating, but I found ways and strategies to be able to overcome that.
Wow. Awesome. So we'll kind of get into that too, because I'm curious to find out what those strategies were and what you did to overcome that part of it. But tell me a little bit more about yourself. I mean, obviously you started off as a rep and then went from rep to becoming a sales trainer, but how did that all come about? Like, how did you hear about the company? What brought you into sales, honestly?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it's kind of the whole thing's a crazy story. So basically what happened was I was out of college. I was 22, 23 at the time. And one of my best friends, he works for UniFirst still. He's actually on the sales training team now, Frank Guerrillo. He reached out to me and he was like, hey, listen, you're out of college.
What's up, Frank?
Yeah, exactly, Frank. Yep. He was like, you're out of college, you're living in your mother's basement, you have no job. I'm working with this company called UniFirst. He was like, hey, if you come in and I refer you, I can make $1,000. I'll take you out to dinner or something like that if you last 3 months. And I was like, I'll take a shot at it. And the thing was I was very grateful. Mike Richard was my sales manager. He gave me an opportunity at that age, and at that point in my life, like I was just hungry. I was just looking for an opportunity, literally willing to do anything to kind of start life essentially. So he gave me an opportunity. I started selling. And the first thing was I started training, and that's when I fell in love with sales training. And I remember I had a class. I was sitting in that class in the trainer's training, and I was sitting there watching, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, I don't know how that guy got to that position, but I think I'd be really good at that job. And I would enjoy it a lot, and I would be really effective at it. So then about a year goes by, and one day an email goes out to the company that there's an opening for a sales training position. The second I saw the email, I was actually out in the field, pulled my car over immediately, picked up the phone and called Will McDonald, who was the manager of sales training at the time, and immediately hopped into that process. Tried it. I went through the interview process, and the first time I applied, I was rejected. So I didn't get it the first time. There was a lot of writing involved, and due to my writing skills at the time, it was just, I just didn't cut it. And I'll never forget that day. So this is the best part of the story is Will calls me. He's like, "Hey, Alex, I wrote some for you, you just didn't cut it, whatever." And, we hung up the phone, and I was out in the field still. I was driving, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and this must have been the whole year of sales that I've started in. And I was like, no, I got to do something. I pulled over, picked up the phone, called him back. I said, "Hey, Will, I really want this job. What can I do? What can I do in the future? How can I get it?" And he was like, "Well, first of all, I'm shocked that you called back. But work on your numbers, work on your writing. There'll be an opening again down the road. And as long as you're working on those aspects, you'll be able to apply again." And probably 3 or 4 months went by. Sure enough, there was another opportunity that opened up. I applied again, went through the interview process, ended up getting through to who is now the director of sales at UniFirst, Joe Fleming. And that last interview, he asked me, he said, "You've applied once, we rejected you once, you're applying again. If we reject you again, what are you going to do? Are you going to try again?" I was like, I told him straight up, I was like, "I think this is where I belong in this company. I think this is where I'll be the most effective. And I'll keep trying as long as you guys are willing to let me." And they gave me the opportunity, and here we are. So that's kind of my story from start to finish. And all of that happened within I was a sales rep for a year and a half. So it's probably like a 2-year period or so. And I was 23, 24 maybe when I started in sales training. So it's been a electric 5 years or so.
Yeah, that's a really good question to ask in interviews too. And I feel like if I was to ask somebody like as a sales manager, sales trainer, sales interviewer, like, what are you going to do if I say no and I don't give you the job? Because ultimately in sales, and this, persistence is key, and being able to go back in time and time again and face that rejection over and over again. That's it takes a different person to be able to be comfortable with that. So congrats, man.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's a really,
I appreciate it. And going back to what you just said, and I've sat in interviews before, when it comes to sales, the biggest thing I want to know if you're interviewing for a sales position is I want to know how hungry you are and how bad you want it. Because at the end of the day, you could be trying to get into the position for, whatever reasons, but if you have the desire, we can coach everything else and we can kind of mold you into what we need and you'll be successful.
Gotcha. So I think the first time you and I met was at the FS Super Bowl in Ontario. And that was, it's so crazy that was so long ago. Like since then, so much has happened. Like I've transferred not just branches, but different states. Like I left from California, which a lot of people are doing, and went over to Idaho, where I went from a branch to like what we call is like a twig, right? It's like a very, very small version of a branch. It's just starting out. It's getting a lot bigger though.
It's because you guys are building it up out there.
That's right. Yeah. Working extremely hard to do that. But I remember being really intrigued by you because I never met somebody that had just gotten into sales training. So I probably asked you like 100 questions, and a lot of the questions I asked you answered. A lot of them I asked you, it's like you said, "No, I'm not going to answer that." Like I remember exactly what you said to me too, is you said, "It took me 6 months of interviewing to get to find out what that answer is. So if you want to find out, why don't you go apply?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like probably like a week into it. And then that was like one of the things is they were like, that was my first travel assignment ever. It was the first place I ever went to. And like, they prepped me before. And like, the big thing was, they're like, you have to, just be professional, everything you say, you're coming from corporate. So everything you say is going to be held to a higher standard, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was sitting there and I was freaking out because this is my first trip and my first opportunity. And I was like, I don't know what to say. Like I need to, whatever. And I've kind of figured out, what's acceptable and not and all that good stuff going forward. But yeah, that was my very first trip ever.
Yeah. So that's actually something I want to get into as well, because obviously as a sales trainer, when you put on events like the FS Super Bowl, or you do like AVS, which is advanced value selling for people that don't know, and you have reps that come over to corporate. Obviously, most of the time, these reps, they're young, between 21 to like 22. I mean, not that young, but 21 to like 25 or whatever. Most of the time, they're single. How do you keep reps like to behave?
So you wanna know something crazy? Absolutely. I'll tell you, this is one of the craziest things I've realized about sales training. Believe it or not, from when I go out on these trips and I see these people, the people that behave the best are those younger people. It's the people that are married, they've been, in the same world, in the same life every single day, that this is the one time, they're out of their routine, they're out of their environment when they start to kind of cut loose. And really in that situation, I mean, really we kind of, we have the events that we have the group gatherings, and not a lot ever really happens when I'm present. And that's probably just because I'm present. But I also, as a sales trainer, when we're out on a trip, we're working and we're used to it. So I'm in bed at a certain time. I disappear at a certain time. Yeah. And so yeah, but the crazy thing is, like I said, it's the younger people are usually the most well-behaved. It's the older people that, they're away, they're at a hotel that, I find where I'm like, you need to, hey, take it down a notch,
That's so interesting. Cause like, I would have thought that was the complete opposite. Like myself.
No, it's and the younger people are like, they're scared. Like, that's the thing is the younger people are like, this is my first trip. Like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to lose my job. And it's the other way around. I find the more tenure you have, the more likely it is that, we have to keep an eye on you.
Yeah, I got you. I guess that makes sense. I mean, I feel like every event that I've been to, I think I've probably been to maybe a handful over the course of my tenure with UniFirst. They've always been super professional, very, very well done. Of course, you do have
yeah, it's not like anything crazy. I've never seen really anything too crazy happen. I mean, the craziest thing that's probably happened is people show up late for training the next morning. That's about it.
Right. Which even that, like in my mind, I'm like, how do you show up late? Like just go to bed.
That's the biggest rule. Hey, listen, you do what you got to do the night before, but you got to show up on time the next day.
Right. Yeah. Like I tried to make it a rule where, and it's funny too, because like my wife will joke with me about this because she knows like I wasn't the best student in high school. I wasn't the best student in junior college. I didn't go to like a university or whatever. So like I kind of like pushed all the assignments off, just kind of like half-assed everything. But as soon as I got on with UniFirst, like I remember going to my first ABS and I got like back then there wasn't a lot of homework, but just like a couple of years ago, I went with my sales manager and there's homework every night that you got to do.
Yeah.
And I remember going back to my hotel room. I did all my homework first, aced everything. I turned it in right away, went downstairs, had dinner, was back up to my hotel room by like 7:30, 8 o'clock. Right. My wife was like, how can you focus so much on the laundry industry and you couldn't focus this well in school? I'm like, because believe it or not, the laundry industry is a lot more interesting than anything I learned in school, which is so weird, right?
Same exact way. For example, I never used to read really. I hated reading growing up. But I'm reading sales books like all the time nowadays, and I like it and I enjoy it because it adds value that I can give back.
Yeah. So that actually brings me to my third question for you, which is as a sales trainer, I mean, you basically put yourself in a position, at least in my mind anyway, on the same level as any other sales trainer out there who's ever called themselves a sales trainer. Zig Ziglar included, Jeb Blount, Grant Cardone. So what kind of books are you reading? Is there anything that you recommend for reps to read?
I have one book that I recommend to everybody. And it's in my opinion, it's the greatest sales book there is. But it's not like directly a sales book. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
I've read that. Love it.
Yeah, no, it's my favorite. It's my favorite sales book. And if you've read it, so they take the lessons, basically how to, win friends and influence people. And the way that the book is written is it tells stories on how it all applies. And then usually every chapter, there's at least one sales story. And with the customer development representatives, it's a big relationship building and managing position. So that's a big book that, I reference. I teach a lot out of those strategies repeatedly throughout the training. So that's the one book I recommend to everybody that in sales in general. And in my opinion, it's the best sales book I've ever read.
Yeah. Like, and that book has been in print since, I think it said, 1954 or something like that?
It's been print for a very long time. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. It's like I remember reading that book. I wasn't even in sales. I think I was teaching martial arts at the time. I remember reading that book just because of the title. I was like, is this book really going to teach me how to win friends? Like, I'm pretty good at winning friends, but are there actual like studies or techniques I can use? And sure enough, I think a lot of it is just about learning tact. Like, there's a great part in that book where he tells a story, and you probably remember this more than me, but there's a story about there's two guys at a dinner party, and their mutual friend is hosting this party, and he starts making this speech, and he thinks he's quoting it's either Shakespeare or somebody else that's famous like that, and Dale's friend goes off and corrects him in front of everybody, and he comes back, no, I'm pretty sure it's this, and he continues his speech, and he went to correct him again, and Dale like stomped on his foot and was like, dude, shut up. And then like later on, as they're driving back, he goes, why'd you stop me? I mean, you know that he's wrong. And the response that he gave was so profound. I still tell this to people, where he said, it doesn't matter if he's wrong. It's his party. You're making him look like a fool in front of all of his friends just because you want to be right. And I feel like that's so valuable to know, because this day and age with social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, with YouTube comments, I'm looking at you subscribers, the comment, right? We're so quick to like judge or correct somebody on what their post is. It's just like, just move along, move.
Absolutely.
You know,
No, that's what I love about that. The thing about that book that I love is when you read it, it's so simple. Like and really all it is just be selfless, make the other person feel important. And, really in sales, that's what it's all about. Make sure the customer or the prospect knows that they're what matters. That's what we're focusing on. And we're trying to find a way to be able to help them. So I actually read that book. I just moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. But I read it because I was like, I'm going to have to move down there. I don't know anybody. I'm going to have to make friends and meet new people. So I read it over the summer in preparation. And then I was like, wait a minute, time out. I was like, this is a sales book. Like, this is all, all these sales stories. And then I incorporated immediately into CDR training, because I was like, this is what, we all need to be participating in and knowing in order to build those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, that answers my question, because I was just going to ask you, like, if you apply any of that back to the lessons or the training that you give to like your CDRs or to like the reps that contact you, and you just said that you did. So that's awesome, man. What do you think, like because obviously moving from a rep to a sales trainer is a very different environment, right? Because now there's no quota, right? There's no door knocking, there's nothing else. There's a different level of stress, sure. But maybe you can enlighten some of the people that are listening to this podcast that are curious about what that transition is like.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I stress to people all the time about sales training is it's a different skill set. Like it's a completely different skill set. Just because you're a great salesperson doesn't mean you would be a great trainer. Just because you're a great trainer doesn't mean you would necessarily be a great salesperson. And the reason is, as a salesperson, obviously we're trying to sell something. We have activities, we have quota, we have all this stuff going on. As a sales trainer, my objective is different. I'm not necessarily selling. I mean, I kind of am, but at the end of the day, I have to figure out, what do you need to know and how do I communicate it to you in the most effective manner? And so and the other thing is too, is everybody's kind of at different levels and different points. So the other big thing about sales training that people don't realize is what they see from us is they see us training actively. So they see us at the events, they see us on the calls. But that's the smallest part of my job. The biggest part of my job is behind the scenes. It's creating the content, creating the PowerPoints, the workbooks, the videos, and all of that stuff. And that's the real challenge, because you're sitting there with like 4 or 5 different projects. You got a deadline at the end of the month, and you got to bang out all these projects while having these classes kind of interrupt your day. So I'd say that's the biggest difference, is it's almost an entirely different environment. But a lot of the soft skills, such as the ability to speak, your confidence, and things such as that, are what's going to apply in both.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's something that I wasn't aware of until I think I talked to you on the phone about this, because like content creation, when you typically, like nowadays, when you think about that, like you think about like a YouTube channel, you think about a podcast, you think about Instagram, or you think about Facebook or whatever.
It's all the same stuff, actually. Yeah. It's all the same different skill sets right there.
Right. But like at the same time, because jumping back to the first part of our conversation where you're spearheading this new training program, like you actually have to what's the best way to put this, to not only put yourself in the shoes of your CDRs or the reps that you're training, but you also have to put yourself in the shoes of the customer that's now listening to this scripting or the overcoming objections, and actually think about what's going to help the customer too. Am I right?
100%. And that's a big aspect of it is, I always have to be putting myself in these other people's shoes and looking through it through their perspective. And then I have to identify that relationship between the CDR and that customer. I have to look at both perspectives, and then I have to be able to train on what's going on in between. What's going on in between those two parties that's going to be effective so that our company can solve our customers' problems, wants, needs, and all that good stuff.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't sound very easy, Alex. That sounds very, very tough.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's been, maybe it's just, it was definitely tough at first, but basically once I found the trick to really it all. And the trick to really it all is you got to talk to everybody. Like the thing that, I identified is, you have to first, in my opinion, you have to admit that you don't know this stuff. I had to admit, I don't know what it's like being a CDR. I don't know how that relationship looks. So my biggest key to success in everything that I've done is all of the CDRs. I have a strong relationship with all of them. My focus is always, how can I help you? What do you guys need to know? What's going on out in the field? And so like throughout the week, I'm talking to probably 10, 15, 20 CDRs, phone calls, emails, whatever. So they're out in the trenches. I have to know what's going on in the trench and where they're struggling, where they need support. And then at the corporate level, I have to either create a training. I either have to talk to the different departments, whether that's commissions, get information to executives, and make sure that they're getting the support that they need. So that, I mean, for me, really all it is just a phone call with the people on the field. What do you need? How can I support you? And then taking my skills to be able to find that support. And that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years now since we rolled this program out.
Wow. Does it make you want to get back out there in the field and like have like a ride along with some of the CDRs to find out what's really?
Oh, that I would absolutely. That's, I don't personally, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I'm good at. And like, I want to be a sales trainer. I don't think I want to go back out into the field and sales, but I have to go for those ride alongs. And as a sales trainer, in my opinion, as a sales trainer, the biggest issue you might find is that disconnect. Because, we're working at corporate, we're working at these locations, we're not out in the field. And if we lose disconnect with the field, we're not effective anymore. We're unrealistic. And that's one of my biggest things is why I need to have these relationships with these CDRs is because I need to try and be as realistic as possible. You see the jokes on like LinkedIn and everything about how easy sales training describes it and how hard it really is. And I remember it being like that as a rep. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's that really contributes to the disconnect that you're talking about, right? Like, and one of the things that people may or may not know about me personally is like I left UniFirst after like a year and a half, and I went to a different company, and I won't mention the company's name, but I literally walked in, I sat down, and literally what the training was a Tupperware like bucket like this that was full of a whole bunch of folders. Set it down on my desk, and they said, read this, and in 3 weeks you hit the field. Good luck, kid. And then just walked away. Like that is the level to which some companies will train their reps. And so one of the reasons I came back is because I realized I kind of got spoiled with not just the amount of training I was receiving, but also the greater accountability on me to learn it too. Because I mean, that's so anyways. But it's like even back then too, back when I first started, the connection with sales training didn't go further than like anything from like, a video conference, or like if you were scheduled to take a meeting, you had to schedule yourself to go in and like learn lessons or like review things or recertify or whatever. And now here I am, just a local rep. I'm talking to a corporate sales trainer on YouTube, right? And doing a podcast. So like there's definitely been this gigantic change, and I feel like that's a great thing. So Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. So my biggest thing as a sales trainer, and this is my perspective of it all, and what I believe every sales trainer's perspective should be, is for me, the way I look at my job is my job, if I need to do my job correctly, and this is where, I put stress on myself, and what really motivates me as a trainer and why I'm always so open to everybody is the way that I see it is my job is to help you put food on the table and a roof over your head. Like my job is to help you make money so that you can take care of your family, take care of your life. If I don't do my job effectively, you might have the desire and be putting in all the effort, but you might not be able to, keep your job or put something in that situation. So that's my biggest motivation is I want to make sure that if you're willing to put in the effort, I'm willing to give you everything that I got so that you can be successful, that, you can do whatever you want. My favorite thing about being a trainer is when people call me and they're like, Alex, I just bought a new house, or I just bought a new car, or, we just did this, or we just did that. Because to me, that's what my job is. It impacts your ability to be successful, which at the end of the day is impacting how much money you're bringing home to your family. So that's the way that I look at it, and why, I kind of just always am open and willing to do whatever I can to help.
yeah, that's awesome. And that is a great phone call to have. Like, I'm sure it is. I haven't gotten that personally, but I think that's awesome.
That's my favorite part is when people make it to P Club, when people,
right.
When all the good stuff happens. Like I tell people all the time, like, call me all the time for all the questions you have and the challenges and the adversity, but just make sure you call when the good stuff happens too.
Yeah, that's something I noticed about your social media, which I'm going to ask you about in a second. But you seem pretty active on social media, and I think I've probably seen you post like a whole bunch of different posts about the family, the family atmosphere that UniFirst is. Pictures from like President's Club or pictures from like different trainings, and like you really highlight each individual person, which I really enjoy seeing that. So that's kind of my next question too, is how do you feel that social media has affected sales both negatively and positively?
Positively, I would say it's affected sales positively in two ways, internally and externally. So internally, it allows us to thrive, have our culture thrive. Not only does it allow our culture to thrive for us to see what other things are going on, but it allows us to see what other people are doing. And that's one of what I think is one of the most important things is a lot of times, you're out in Idaho, you're at your location, you have your own world, but there might be a better way of doing something that you just don't know about. So social media allows us to see and learn kind of from each other, as well at the same time kind of hype up our culture. The negative aspect, let me think about that for a second. So on the negative aspect, I would say there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on and a lot of different types of information, positive, negative, and this is just social media in general. And when you start digesting too much, you can get into your own head. So I think on the negative aspect, it might impact salespeople to get into their own head, whatever way that is. And as we know, one of the most important things as a salesperson is that mindset being strong and clear. So I would say those are the positives and the negatives of it.
Yeah, that's a great answer too. Do you feel too, because like I see so much of this now with salespeople, and I see people post, like motivational posts, which I'm not against at all. Like I think that's great. Like you guys go out there and do you, that's your culture, whatever. I'm not really a huge motivational speaker kind of guy or life coach kind of guy, just because like a perfect example, like I saw a post that said, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process, which at first glance, you're like, yeah, that seems cool. So you have all these comments like, oh, so profound. I needed this, whatever. And this is awesome. Right. But it's literally the definition of the opposite of success, that word. So I'm like, wait a minute, like, are we playing games? Are we changing up definition of words now? Like what's going on? And so like what I see happen a lot of times, because I'm very active on LinkedIn too, is I see a lot of fluff, right?
Oh, a ton of fluff.
Yeah, I see these posts about, it's just like these posts about, oh, this is so motivational and so cool, whatever. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just not my cup of tea. I've been around long enough to understand like that's what that is. And hey, if that motivates somebody else, more power to you. But like, I'd rather see things like for example, like Allison Abbott, shout out to Allison, who will literally post like a day in the life of her going out there with samples, or like a Nicole Pennington who has a whole bunch of seedings, like in her trunk and samples everywhere, and she's doing boomerangs. So like that's what I want to see, is people out there grinding, they're working hard, and they're maintaining that mental focus, not this motivational stuff.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about, and that's just all social media, doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or whatever. And in my opinion, there's like two different types of content. You have people trying to put content up to try and get likes, comments, whatever, and try and get attention. That's that motivational stuff that you're talking about. But then you have the content that's real. When you're talking about Allison, when you're talking about Nicole, when you're talking about these people, they're just being themselves. They're being themselves. They're posting what's actually going on, how they actually feel. It's their own words. And that's the most impactful content. And the irony is if you actually want likes and you want followers and you want traction, you have to be real, because there's so much fluff out there these days, and we can all tell what it is. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what I look for. As I just scroll down till I see the real stuff, and that's the stuff that I like and message on or whatever.
Yeah. So like I actually had a conversation with another rep this past week who, as we were talking about like social media presence and whatever. And she was asking me for like a little bit of advice. And I told her, I said, just be organic. Like, just like, if you don't feel like posting it, don't post it, because it's not going to get you any more, like credibility or clout, right? That's the new word, right? It's like clout.
Yeah, clout.
It says clout, or like, yeah, no cap, by the way. It's like, did I miss the memo? Am I just too old? Is it the gray hair? Is that why like, I don't know these words? But like, it's funny because like the example I gave her was, I said, I posted something about a picture of like a presentation I was like writing about. I was super proud of it. And they got maybe like, 100 views or whatever on LinkedIn. The next weekend, I brought my family to the Twig because I had some extra work to do. It's like my kids go, "Hey, Daddy," it's like, "I want to take a picture in front of the truck." And so they're like in front of the UniFirst truck, they're pointing up to the logo and like they're smiling. That got like 10,000 views. Oh, yeah. I'm like, people just like my kids more than me. Like, but like it's just because it's organic. Like people want
exactly
want
that's what they want.
Yeah, it's like they want to see there's a pride in working for the company that you work for. So anyways, at least on LinkedIn anyways. I don't know how Instagram works. I'm too old for Instagram. I don't really do it.
I love Instagram. LinkedIn is like, it's weird because like Instagram and like LinkedIn, like one's very, very like professional, and you still have that like work vibe. Like I feel like I'm at work when I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But then even on Instagram, it's the same thing. You got people being fake, and you have that fluff, but then you just be yourself. And at the end of the day, my biggest advice to anybody on social media ever is just don't even think about it. If you want to post something, whatever happens, you get a like, you don't get a like. And that's how you get the traction, is just by being you and just doing your thing.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that mindset with LinkedIn about being at work, because I feel like if you post certain things on LinkedIn, that's the only social media platform I've ever seen where people get like mad at you for posting things that like aren't professional.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a friend of mine who started a business, and he told me, he's like, I got rid of all my social media, all Facebook, all Instagram. I kept LinkedIn because that's the only social media like I believe in nowadays. And I'm like, man, that is really crazy to say that. But anyways, so yeah, I'm right there with you with that though. My next question to you, and this is probably going to be the funnest part of our conversation, is what kind of success stories have you heard from being like a sales trainer? Like I know you mentioned that people will phone you up and they'll say, "Hey man, I bought a house. I did this. I got the President's Club because of your training." And you don't have to be specific with the names unless you want to like shout out to the people that told you this stuff. But what kind of stories could you share with our listeners?
Oh, off the top of my head, like the house ones, that was one of the big ones that I had. We had a CDR. It was so the thing about this program that we have with the CDRs that I really love, and this is a success story that repeats over and over again, actually, now that I'm talking about it, is so we have our service team, right? So we have our team members that they're the ones that's really the business. They're driving every week to see our customers. They're dropping off products. They're servicing those customers. So what we do is we take those people and we convert them over to customer development representatives. And so what it is you get these people that have been out on route for like 10, 15 years, and they've been grinding. Like this is, physical labor. These are grinders. Like these are some hardworking human beings. They get into this position, and the skills all I have to teach these people is the sales strategy, and then how to, the sales applications. and they go nuts and they put up crazy numbers. Their success is insane. And the thing is I love seeing it because you get to see these people that have just grinded and done so much for the company just get rewarded so much, and they love it. They're bought in. And so, we had one guy, he came off of route. He was a young guy, and he called me one day, said, Alex, I just want to let you know, like, I've been living in an apartment, but this or a condo, and this, because of my success, I'm going to buy my first house. And I didn't even think that was possible. And this guy's gone to P Club like a couple of times. So that was a great story. Another great one is we had a CDR who was married, and him and his wife, they never went on a honeymoon. And so what happened was he got into P Club, and he was like, I was so happy to get into P Club because what he was able to do is that P Club was their honeymoon. He was like, this is our honeymoon. This is gonna be, it's just me and my wife, and this is a honeymoon that we never had, and we got to do this because of me being a CDR. So those are just like a couple examples of the stories, but the one that I see over and over again is these people are just coming off of route and just absolutely eating, and just how happy they are to be in the position that they are. And that's what's really the most rewarding for me, and that really makes my day a lot, is just getting calls about things like that, or seeing those people be so happy in this position after their transition.
Yeah, that's something I forgot about too, is when you have a CDR spot open, a lot of times the best people for that are the RSRs, because those guys, and for those of you who don't know what an RSR is, it's a route service representative, or route sales rep. And essentially that whole part of our workforce is like the heart that makes the blood pump through the rest of the body.
That's the business. That's the business right there. They are those RSRs is what we sell.
Yeah.
Not in like a negative aspect, but them coming to you every single week, servicing you. That's the entire business right there.
Yeah. Like I've told my RSRs over the course of my tenure here multiple times. I've said, like, I can go into like any account and I can sit down, I can ask all the right questions. I can get a ton of service issues and a ton of pain or whatever. And at the point where I go to close that business and sign that business up, the owner will look at me and go, yeah, but we love Matt. We love Mark. We love Taylor. Like, I just don't feel comfortable leaving them. Let's give them another shot. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, as long as it's like as an RSR, if you are treating your customers like gold, there's nothing that somebody like me can do. Like, nothing.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah. Man, that's crazy. Man, I just had a question for you. Now it's like, now I can't think of what it was.
It'll come back at some point.
Yeah. Let me backtrack. We were talking about RSRs, P Club.
I asked you about success stories with CDRs calling in.
Man, I can't think of what it was now. Crap. Yeah, it's gonna come back. So let me ask this question, Alex, because it's like, I'm genuinely curious to know. But as far as the next steps in your mind, like with the company, like, are you looking to move up in the company? Is this a position where like you could stay at, or is there more upward mobility within?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for me, the first thing on my mind is so the first thing I'm focused on is we've created this customer development representative program. So basically, I've had to create the training from scratch. I've created the entire program, the trainings, everything. And for a long time, we were doing a lot of patchwork, essentially. We were kind of just duct taping the whole thing together, figuring out as we were going. And my first goal is I need to get this, because I play a role where I have to support as many people as I can. There's a lot of phone calls and I'm answering and making sure that everything's moving direction. My first goal is to get this program to a point where I can be removed, where I don't need to be any part of it at all, because it's running smoothly. Everybody has the information they need. We've kind of connected the wires and the communication there, and we're getting close to that point. But next steps other than that, I mean, for me personally, I want to keep training. So whether that's training other positions within the company, doing different classes, because I originally started off as a product trainer. I've trained I've done NHSE, so our new hires. I've done product training. I'm now at the customer development representatives. But for me personally, I think I have a really great skill set and talent at doing what I do. And I want to keep just defining that and seeing really where this takes me. So as of right now, I don't have necessarily like a thing where I can say, this is what I want to be. I want to keep being a sales trainer, but I want to just keep being a better sales trainer as time goes on.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's That's really cool, honestly. That's a question I get too, because like I've been a rep now for combined, it'll be almost 7 years as of May, which
Well, let me
is
ask you a question.
sure.
Are you happy?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Like, I mean,
That's what I tell people all the time. I'm
yeah,
happy. Like
yeah. I mean,
I'm good here.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely days, and my sales manager will tell you this too, where like I'll call him up because I tell him, it's like, there's sometimes I'll call him up and go, hey, Chris, like there's some days I feel like I am the absolute worst at this job. I'm complete trash. And there's other days I feel like I'm the best. Which do you think I am right now? And he goes, you're definitely the best because of the tone of your voice. And I go, I'm the best. And I'll start freaking out about this deal I closed, right?
Yeah.
There's other days where I'm like, which one do you think I am? He's like, you feel like you're the worst. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm wasting my time. Like I shouldn't even be talking to people. Like, it's just,
But
it's
the
like
thing is though, is
roller
like,
coaster, so.
in what you're saying though, in that emotional roller coaster, the way you're feeling those, both of those ways is because you care. Like I'm the same way. Like I care very deeply about what I do. And the days where I'm down on myself, because I get to those points where I'm like, am I communicating what I need to do? Did I just give the most effective training? Am I doing my job right? But I care. And like, but going back to the reason I asked you that question, my biggest thing is people ask me and I'm like, listen, like, I wake up every day and I'll be completely honest with you. There's not a day where I don't want to go to work.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to work today. We're going to do this. I'm going to get into my zone. I'm going to do my thing. And that's one of the biggest things I'm the most grateful for, is because at the end of the day, sure, you can go off to a different position. You can go to a different company. You can make more money. But my overall happiness is just, it doesn't feel like work. And they always, you know, the cliche where it's like, have a job where you don't feel like you're working. And that's just how I feel. So I'm happy where I'm at. And until that feeling fades away, and I don't know if it ever will, then sure, I'll go try and go in a different direction or something like that. But for the time being, it's been a fun ride, and I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, that's something I see on LinkedIn a lot too, is you get these jokes about like a brand new sales rep, first month, and that after the first year shows them like aged like a ton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, yeah, there is a certain level of stress with selling, but I think, to be fair, I think that UniFirst does a really good job with their sales reps and their CDRs, it sounds like, of helping them mitigate that stress and manage that stress by simply more training, right? I mean, I can't think of a single sales manager I've had in the course of time I've been with UniFirst, and there's been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 sales managers total that I've had that have been bad managers. I mean, they've all been great. Maybe it's just because I've been very lucky, knock on wood, but I feel like that's just a byproduct of what this company does and what it, like, it's like it what's what I'm looking for? Like it creates, right?
Yeah. We have a great culture. You got the question?
Yeah. Yep. It just
popped
into my head.
That moment when it hit you. I was like, it's going to happen. At one point, he's going to have that aha moment. I was waiting for it to hit you.
Yep. As soon as I hit the wood, I was like, oh, there it is. I know what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, from a sales training perspective, what, like, obviously not everybody's going to succeed, right? There's going to be some people that either they just don't get it, or they don't have the drive, they don't have the motivation, they're there for the wrong reasons. But what do you see as the number one reason that people fail in sales?
That's an amazing question. And as a trainer, like, the crazy thing is, as a trainer, I can tell real quick. I can tell, real quick, just by how you're talking, and be like, you're not, I don't know why you're here. I don't know why you're in this position. I think the biggest thing is, it's a personality. I think that in order to be in sales, in my opinion, you have to have a certain type of personality. You have to be willing to be extrovert. You have to be willing to handle the stress. Like, a salesperson, no matter who they are, we're all different, but you can kind of put us all into like one group. And that's why I love our events, because there's nothing more than I love being in a room with a bunch of salespeople, because it's, you have that personality type. But then when you hire people that don't necessarily have that personality type, that's when I'm, as a trainer, I'm like, why did we think that this person was a good fit? And a lot of times in that situation, what it is one, somebody's just trying to fill a spot. We've had a territory open, we can't find anybody, we put somebody in that spot. Or two, somebody was sitting there and they were like, I want to be a salesperson because salespeople make great money. And they weren't a good fit because they just wanted the job and they didn't have either the desire or the skill set to be able to do it. But in my opinion, anybody can sell. Like it doesn't, and that's my favorite thing about sales is we can take a person, like we have one of my favorite stories at UniFirst is we had a woman that was working as a waitress and a sales manager was out to dinner at that restaurant and he saw the talent within her and he was like, do you want to join our sales team? She was like, yep. And she's gone to P Club. I think she works in like national accounts now. And
Wow.
That's my favorite thing about sales is it doesn't matter like everything else in the world, you know, what degree do you have? What this do you have? What does this look like? In sales is can you hunt? Can you put up numbers or not? If you can't, you can't stay. If you can, like you're going to be successful. And that's what I love is it's all about what I can do and contribute rather than kind of, in my opinion, some of the BS and politics that happens in other positions and other jobs in other companies. That's what I love about it. But again, if you're here for the wrong reasons, if you don't have that personality type, you're not going to be able to make it. You're not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And the desire is big too.
Yeah, that's that's something I see too with like newer reps that come through. Like, and it's kind of sad because I see on LinkedIn, like I'll connect with people that are brand new in the company. And the first thing I look at is their job history on LinkedIn. I go, okay, well, you're here for 6 months, you're there for 3 months, you're there for 8 months. Like what's going on? And typically, like, unless it's like an anomaly, they don't last more than like a year, right?
No, yeah, nope, yep.
Like, and it gets sad to see that too, because I feel like in my first year was really challenging because of my first outside like sales job ever. And to go through the training I had with sales training was great. But then luckily I had a really good sales manager that really took me under his wing and like mentored me and like really showed me what to do. And had it not been for him and not for that training, I don't think I'd be in sales right now. Like I'd probably be chasing something else. You know,
you have to have the right leadership too. That's another reason, you know, sadly in certain situations, you see people leave, you'll see somebody there, they have the potential, they have the talent, but it's their leader that's failing them, whatever situation it is at whatever level. And that's something, you know, that I hate to see personally, because it's just like this person, they're willing to do what needs to be done. So as a trainer, if I ever run into those situations, I'll tell that person straight up, like, call me, whatever you need, just let me know. Because as a company, we can't let this person down if they're willing to give us what they got. So we need to do whatever we can as a company, no matter what position we're in, to get that specific person. And sometimes, I mean, you could have a location where there's just no sales manager. There's a sales manager opening, they're waiting to hire somebody, and you got reps at that location. And they're like, what do we do? And so at that time, like if you call me as a sales trainer, I'm gonna give you everything I got to direct you, because in my opinion, that's what you need and deserve.
Yeah, I've been there too. Like, I mean, I remember being a rep and kind of being in between like sales managers for one reason or another. And it gets tough to see like brand new reps that come in and they start with, there's not that mentorship there, right? And so like as a tenured rep, of course, I'm going to step up, I'm going to help them out, kind of like take them in the car, ride along with them or whatever, show them the ropes, and then to some extent kind of keep them accountable too, right? But yeah, that's interesting. So so like kind of jumping to my next question, my final question for you, is like, is there such thing as a sales gene? Like, I know you said like you have to have a certain personality. Like I get asked this all the time, like, where'd you get your sales gene from? Like, is there a sales gene? Do you feel like there is one, or is that just kind of like a made up thing for people that like don't want to put the work in to learn how to sell?
I don't think it's not a gene. So in my opinion, it's not something that you're born with. But it is like a personality trait or a hunger. Like a hunger in my opinion is one of the most important things. Because if you really think about it, what we are is we're hunters. Like that's what salespeople are. We're hunting all day, every day. We're in the woods, we're tracking, and you know we're trying to maximize our potential so that we can eat. But if somebody's not hungry, you're not. A starving hunter is going to be a lot more effective than a full hunter, simply because that starving hunter is going to be willing to do whatever they can. So I think you can see that. Another thing is though too is belief and confidence. Something very simple. Where for me personally, the only reason I'm in sales is because I was at a position where I was that hungry and I needed something, and you know I ended up getting the belief once I started But if I never gotten to that point, I would have never gave myself an opportunity. But you have to be a social person. But one of the most unique things is though too is you have to be fearless. You have to be fearless. You cannot have fear. Like, we cannot afford it. And that's my favorite thing, is meeting salespeople that just, they have no social fear. Like, where it's almost like they don't have like social awareness, where like they can't tell if somebody doesn't want to talk to them or not. And those sometimes are some of the best salespeople, because they'll talk to everybody and anybody, and they don't care. Like, there's nothing stopping them. But all these different aspects, you can work on removing fear. You can grow hunger over time. So these are all things that people, if they really wanted to do it, could focus on and build. But for a lot of people, it's just naturally how we get through life. Like your story, you're talking about not being necessarily like great in school. I was the same way. A lot of salespeople that I met, it's the same way. So if we're not good at writing, we're not good at skill, how have we gotten through to this point in life? This guy right here. We've been able to talk ourselves through life and kind of figure out how to get ourselves into the right rooms and the right positions. We've had a hustle. And then you come to sales, and sales has opened arms for people like us. And they're like, this is where you belong. Like, we have homework, but you're going to want to actually do this homework. So in my opinion, I think that's what it is. I don't think it's necessarily something you're born with, but there is a personality trait, and there are skill sets that you can work on to kind of join that group, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great answer. It makes me think about, because you mentioned that you have to be kind of like a fearless person, right? And kind of like focusing on removing that fear. Like, I remember.
Sorry about that.
My cat's running. Dude, trust me, I've had my kids come in and like jump up on my lap, my podcast, so not a big deal. I remember this one time, like, I love telling this story. So like, back when I was rep for the first time, I got super creative, and I kept walking into this one business over and over again. I couldn't get past the receptionist, right? Just like couldn't do it. She just was a super awesome gatekeeper. Just like, nope, I'm not interested, go away. Like, I'll take your business card. If he's interested, he'll call you back, right? So anyways, I end up coming in again. Like, I actually went out and I bought a hard hat, like safety glasses, whatever, right? I walked in through the back, and I follow, it's like the safety line, right? And there's a guy who stopped me, like the foreman of this place, and he goes, what are you doing here? I was like, sorry, I'm looking for the owner. And he goes, oh yeah, let me walk you right back to him. So I go walking through this office into the owner's office. It's like he's on the phone. I see him. I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll leave my card. Like, I'll call you. He goes, cool. So I step out. So like 3 hours later, I'm in the field still, and I get this email from my sales manager saying, hey, would you call me real quick? I'm like, yeah. So I call him up. He goes, hey man, I need you to come to the office at the end of the day. And I'm like, oh no, like, I overstepped my bounds. He's going to fire me or whatever. So I get back to the office, and up on the big screen, my regional sales manager's there, my sales manager's there. There's this email from this guy, the owner, that got really pissed off that I walked through the back of his place, right? I mean, just like 6 paragraphs long about, OSHA compliance, also there's stuff. And so like, I'm thinking, okay, I better start taking off my tie now and getting my stuff ready. Yeah. And then they close it off, and my regional sales manager goes, what do you think about that? I was like, honestly, I'm so sorry. And he goes, you have earned the biggest high five ever. There's nobody that does that out there anymore. Like, he was ecstatic that I had done that. Right. Like, and from then on, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to walk through the back or walk around towards like where the docks are, maybe going that way too. And it's interesting because now it's like, I'll ask people, what was it that ultimately earned me the business? And sometimes what they'll say to me is, you got past Debbie at the front desk. Like, she doesn't let people back there. So the fact that you were able to get back and nobody else was, that's awesome. So, yeah. But anyways, Alex, I want to thank you tremendously for jumping on my podcast. I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate it. And that being said, if anybody wants to connect with you, where can they find you? How do they learn more about UniFirst as a career? All that stuff.
Yeah, you got me on LinkedIn, Alexander Clark on LinkedIn. UniFirst, you can just look up UniFirst. There's a lot of cool stuff going on right now with UniFirst. We're making a ton of moves right now that everybody's really excited about. We got a lot of new marketing initiatives, so I think a lot more people are going to hear our name in the near future, because we got a lot of great initiatives going on there. But yeah, can I top it off with a quote here?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for
All
it.
right, so this is my favorite sales training quote there is, and I used to have it in my signature, and then it was like we have to have right signature or whatever. Um, if you don't practice in-house, you're practicing on your customers or your prospects. So what that means is if you're not training, if you're not practicing, if you're not doing the role plays, if you're not doing the scripts, and what I tell people all the time is think about how terrible you are the first time you do one of these role plays. If you don't do that stuff in-house, you're doing it on customers and prospects, you're not going to win the business. Make your mistakes in-house, perfect it in-house, and then go execute out in the field. That's one of my favorite sales training quotes.
That's right. Yeah. Dude, honestly, I get behind that 100%. I mean, it's like, it's the same thing in martial arts. Like that's my background of fighting and stuff. Like if you don't train, like you're going to perform at the dojo or the gym, like you're going to go out there and perform like you're training and you're going to lose. So yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I will ask you one more question. Where do you think the
Absolutely.
Patriots are going to end up? Because I know you're a huge fan
Oh,
of the
100%.
Patriots.
All right, so here we go. So where do you think the Patriots are going to end up? So this weekend, you got two games. I think the Bills are playing, I think Miami, Patriots playing the Jets. If the Bills lose, Patriots win the division. If the Bills win, Patriots are going to be the wild card. I think what's going to happen is I think the Bills are going to win. The Patriots are going to lose. No, the Patriots aren't going to lose. I think the Patriots are going to, both teams are going to win. So they're both going to be in the playoffs. I think they're going to play each other. And that's what, in my opinion, it all comes down to. Patriots versus Bills. It's going to be in New York. I got to go with the Pats. After that, I think they got a shot at doing whatever. I mean, there's a lot. The thing I love about the Patriots this year is they don't have like crazy talent. Like they don't have like a superstar, but they work so well together, and everybody, as Bill says, does their job. So, in my opinion, they're going to at least make it past the Buffalo Bills, and then everything. If we can just play the Bills in the playoffs and win that game, everything else is kind of bonus reward after it. But that's my biggest dream is to see them go that first round, beat the Bills, establish to the conference who's the boss, and then go do whatever, or the division who's the boss, and go do whatever they have to.
For sure. Yeah. Were there riots in Boston when Brady left the team?
It was I don't even know how to describe how Boston was, because you had all kinds of mixed emotions. You had people that were angry, you had people that were sad. And it was kind of like confusion. I wouldn't necessarily say like everybody was just like what do we Ricky Bobby, what do I do with my hands? Like we don't know what to do now because this is all we've ever known. But we're loving what we're seeing with Mac Jones right now, I will say.
Yeah, that guy's a savage, man. Like it's such an interesting change too, because so much happened at like one time. You had Edelman retire, which caught I think a lot of people by surprise, and was actually kind of a wise choice on Edelman's part because he's still young, he's not really that injured, he's not all beat up. Like, and then you had Gronk that wasn't there anymore. Like he went into retirement. A lot of people will hypothesize that he just didn't want to go to the Lions, right? I mean, can't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. True. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then you had Brady that switched teams. I got excited because like I've seen so many different documentaries of Brady where like I knew he was a Niners fan and his family had like season passes and like I'm a diehard Niners fan, like born and raised. So like I was thinking, this is it. We're gonna get the GOAT. But like I think had it not been for Jimmy G on the team and the fact that he had just taken us to a Super Bowl, I think for sure we probably would have made a much stronger offer to get Brady on the team.
That's fair. No, that's absolutely fair. I thought when he went to Tampa, I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But the other thing about the Patriots is everybody, because the thing about being a Patriots fan is everybody hates us. Like I'm down here in North Carolina, and like North Carolina's got a great sports culture, but they'll see me wear off my Patriots stuff. I'm like, ooh, like I'm like, we don't even really compete with you. Like, we have no rivalry here. We're not even. You shouldn't be mad at us. But everybody was like, you guys are it's going to take forever to rebuild. You're going to be awful for years. And what took like a year or so, and here we are. Like, we're still maybe rebuilding, but we're right where we need to be.
For sure, yeah. Like, and the cool thing about that too is like UniFirst is now the provider for the Patriots, which is freaking awesome.
Yep.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, it made me a little bit jealous that I wasn't a Patriots fan because I'm like, man, like I'm on the UniFirst team, so I have this tie now to New England and Boston and the Patriots. Like, maybe I should just switch. My dad's like, don't you dare.
Yeah, we have a great partnership with them. I think like every game. So a bunch of my friends went last week, and there's like a moment at every game where they give a jersey to somebody, and like they get the big UniFirst truck up on the screen. It's every single game. They give
Oh,
one of
yeah.
our customer tickets to the game.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that. Somebody posted that on LinkedIn, right? It was like
yeah,
UniFirst everywhere in the stadium. That was so cool. That was really cool. But
mhm,
anyways, man, well, thanks again for jumping on. I appreciate
yeah,
it. Guys, reach out to Alex Clark on LinkedIn. Also, if you don't have a LinkedIn page and you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching it from Facebook or Instagram, jump on LinkedIn, connect with myself, connect with Alex. If you're looking for your next career in sales, I promise you guys, UniFirst is the company to go with. You guys have been amazing as listeners and subscribers. Alex, thanks again, man. And
absolutely.
don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, everybody that's watching, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks again.